Hey, Dr. Stamba here. This is my 5-minute quick vlog on things your pediatrician would love for you to know. Of course, there are many of these things. I'm just going to go over a few today. Number one, we do not judge you. We have kids of our own, most of us, and we know how it is to have an unruly child. We know what it is to have a child that maybe doesn't sleep, or a child that has a challenging personality. When we come in the exam room and your child's going crazy and bouncing off the walls, we are not saying, oh my goodness, these parents are not doing what they need to do, because our kids are doing the same thing at the doctor's office. It's hard to expect kids to wait any amount of time, and so we get it. Sometimes they get a little bit unruly and a little hyper and crazy, and that's okay. We expect it, we are used to it, and we don't judge you. So just know, if I told you some stories, you would understand that I've been in your shoes a lot of times. Most of us have. Sometimes our kids go out of the house and then we find out they don't have any underwear on. So that happens, even to the pediatricians. Just think about what's going on, ask us for help, share with us so we can learn from you, and we'll be okay. Number two, I would say, is vaccines. We love vaccines because they save children's lives. It has nothing to do with anything more than keeping your child protected. So, we really like vaccines. We like the recommended AAP schedule. We don't, CDC or AAP is what you should go to for information. We don't particularly like parents to go off that schedule because it sets up a window for kids to get sick, and they do get sick, and your child is not different from anybody else's. That infection does not know any differences between the children, and so we don't know who's going to be at risk. We don't know who's going to be vulnerable to it, but we encourage you to get the right information. We encourage you to ask us questions. Even if we don't agree with your decision, we want to make sure you're informed and that it's an educated, informed decision. So talk to us. We have literature to give you. We have websites to point you in the right direction. We have a lot of information for you. All of the questions I get are usually the same, and you can see my blog, my written blog on vaccines if you have specific questions. Usually it's the same things over and over again that we talk about. But again, I want you to be informed when you make your decisions, because I'm never okay, and my pediatrician colleagues are never okay with the off schedule. So just know that, at least at Hendersonville Pediatrics, we are uncomfortable, and it's mainly because we have to think of a lot more in the way of serious illness if your child's not vaccinated and they come in with a fever, for instance. So, not all of these diseases are benign. Some of them can be really dangerous, even if it's not a common thing. When it's bad, it's really bad. So just think about it, talk to us, discuss it with us. Number three brings me to fever. Fever is not something that is scary most of the time. 98% of the time, probably, it's not something scary. It tells us you're fighting infection. It tells us your child has some kind of infection. It's not from teething. It's not something that is dangerous for them. It's not going to cause them to have brain damage unless it's very, very high. So fever is not the enemy. Fever is actually your body's way of fighting an infection. It's your immune system doing what it's supposed to do and what it needs to do. It tells us there's an infection. A lot of times the babies, of course, it's like vet medicine. They can't tell us anything. So sometimes the fever will help us, but other times, babies don't present, and they can be really sick and not present the same way an older kid does. So it's kind of a hard thing. If you have a kiddo with a fever, especially a newborn, call us immediately, or go to the ER. The younger they are, the more at risk they are for serious bacterial infections. And then as they get older, they're exposed to a lot more. Their immune system's challenged a little bit more, and they're still going to end up with their colds and their fevers and things that are maybe not as serious, but we still need to find out where it's coming from, and make sure the baby's not getting dehydrated, or that we're not missing something. So always come in so we can sort of rule out some of the stuff that we think about with fever. Most of the time it's not scary. So you don't have to treat every fever. You don't have to treat them before you come to the doctor. I think that's the biggest thing. You don't have to treat them before you come to the doctor for shots. Actually can hinder the response of your immune system if you give Tylenol or Motrin before shots, or right after. So we'd probably say for shots at least, just come and, as is. You do, however, treat fever if it's uncomfortable or if it's getting pretty high, like as in 105, 104 plus. Usually kids are miserable at that point, so it makes sense to treat them and make them comfortable. You're treating just the fever. You're not treating the infection. So it doesn't make the fever go away indefinitely. or definitely, it makes the fever come back in 6 hours or 4 hours because it's not doing what it should do to fight the infection. It's just treating the fever. So it's symptomatic treatment. When you come in, please make sure you know that if you tell me your kiddo has a fever, I will believe you and I will make it part of my decision making. You don't have to wait and not give the kid Motrin to show me the fever. I actually feel like sometimes it's a little bit mean to do that. So if your child is like 103, very uncomfortable, and you're bringing them to see me, just give them some Motrin beforehand. It'll make the experience better for them, better for you, and better for me. And I will believe you if you say, oh, there was a fever this morning. I don't know if maybe you don't have the number exactly, you just felt the baby. If you know your baby's spiking a fever, you know they have a fever. We know our kids. So just know that I trust you in that way, and you can certainly treat the kids if they're uncomfortable. And, similarly, the next thing is trust us. We are giving you advice, and it's coming from really the best place. It's not always going to be the same from provider to provider, and you're not always going to agree with what we say. We're not always going to agree with your particular opinion about things, but I think together we can really be proactive in your child's health, and teach each other along the way, and enjoy your children along the way. So 18 years is a long time, and you go through a lot of phases with your kids, and we go through it with you. So bring them in for their checkups, which is another thing. Make sure they're coming in yearly for checkups. We really don't like when they only come in for the shot checkups. We really want them to come in between, even if they're not due for shots, because number one, you have to think about flu shots. Number two, you have to think about emotional development, physical development, and physical exam is a big part of our visits. So we sometimes pick up things that are dangerous. Moles, for instance, we need to see them at least every year. And so it's really good care to come in every year, and regardless of whether you need shots. Okay. That's about it for now. Next blog is going to be on how to get your child to read, requested by one of my favorite families. Take care.